we really wanted to make sure when, as Solar Flare, we work with as many of the other people as possible. And I actually got to talk to the 80s t-shirt guy because everybody from the Southern Cross family wants the cover of the manual from the game done as a t-shirt as well as the flag. And so I think we need to get together and do some of that too.
Consider it done.
So yeah, Invade Invasion is going to be coming. If you go to the pre-order on the card, it's not going to charge you, it's not going to take you anywhere. You can just go put my name in, put my information in, and when we go live, it'll notify you that you can pre-order the game. And in addition to that, there's going to be a booster pack for Crisis Point, the Regis Mini, give you access to the SDF-1 playmat for Force of Arms, which has been sold out for over a year now. Stop laughing. It's my wife. She told me I didn't order enough, and she got to be right again. So, but the good thing is the final Invade Invasion game is going to be the biggest thing we've ever done. It's going to weigh almost 4 pounds. It's going to have a 2-foot by 3-foot board. You'll have a punch-out miniature, a punch-out standee for every character. Every one of the heroes. There's 4. There's their Cycle, their Cyclone, their Guardian mode, and their Battling mode. So as you play the game and you transform them as you play, you'll be able to change them out. And so it's a lot of cardboard and a lot of really beautiful art. And that's what the box is going to look like. That's what the Regis Mini looks like currently. And I think we even slipped in some of the current work in progress cards for the game as well.
Yeah, so and once again, we're off the website?
Yeah, the best thing to follow us is on Facebook /SolarFlare Games, solarflaregames.com, and also Twitter's @BraveFrontier. I post a lot of stuff all the time, and one of the things to really remember is if you get part of those groups where I'm posting things, we take feedback from the fans. I'm a fan. I do this because this isn't my job. This is what I do because I love it. I got hooked on this stuff in the mid-'80s, and I got an opportunity to add things to a universe that I love. And any of you who interact with me online, I know there are some of you here because you told me you were coming. If you have ideas that will help what we're doing, we will incorporate them. The way we posed the Saber Cyclone for the art for the card in Invade Invasion was done because one of the fans was like, this is the best pose, I like this the best. We ran it through our artist, and then Tommy saw it too, and we were just like, yeah, that's a great idea. And some of the rules tweaks and some of the way you interact with the Regis and Korg and Sarah, we didn't have Korg and Sarah at first, and they went, how can you not have Korg and Sarah? Korg hates Scott. So one of the rules in the game is anytime Korg's going to shoot a hero, if he has a choice between Scott and anybody else, he shoots Scott. So, and Sarah's there to provide all this support of just basically messing with everybody by stuff that she does in the game. So the game is super thematic, and the more theme and the more tweaks we do come from fans like you. So find me online, interact with us online. Now one of the great Facebook groups is the Masters War, is where a lot of the people congregate. They just started a Mospeda group as well. I'm always there. I'm always posting bits and pieces of what we're doing, and we love your interaction and your feedback.
And speaking of the Masters War, you got the Crisis Point game out now. It's now shipping.
Yes, it is. You can get it in game stores everywhere. You can order it at Robotech online. It is one of the deepest strategy. It's a head-to-head combat game, but we really took everything about the characters. Like Dana's special ability is charge. Duh. I mean, that was an easy choice, every problem we solved with a cavalry charge, and so we put a lot of those things in there. And like I said, when we do Invade Invasion, there's gonna be a little booster for this because a couple of the characters didn't make it, and so we saved a few of them for later. That's one of the reasons we did the booster pack for Force of Arms, because Roy, people were like, why isn't Roy in it? Roy's dead. So we added in the Grand Cannon booster pack, which you can get from a game store for free. For the Force of Arms game, Roy's in it. Exodor's in it. There's a lot of things. Fans came back to us and said, why don't you have this? The Grand Cannon's in it. I mean, we put all those things in there because you guys asked for it, so that's why we did it.
Excellent. Dave, thank you for...
May I intersect?
Yeah. And folks, speaking of gaming, we have a great new board license called Strange Machine Games. Already, they have released Robotech, Attack on the SDF-1, which is now shipping for $80. And later this year, this game will be followed by 2 new games, Robotech Brace for Impact, and Robotech Cyclone Run. And they've also expanded into the world of role-playing games with Robotech, a role-playing game, and Robotech the Macross Saga, which will be available for playtesting at Gen Con. So expect more information on the Robotech gaming front. And speaking of fronts, let's talk about Udon and Robotech art books. Yes.
I got a bunch of those.
Okay. So we have the Robotech the Macross Saga Visual Archive now shipping. Tom, you've been working on this a bit, so you've been...
Yeah, so this is one of the most detailed books related to Robotech the Macross Saga. How many of you have Robotech Art 1? That's one of the highly sought after collectibles from the 80s, and that's one of the thickest Robotech reference books that had been out for a long time, but it's become harder to find. When Udon started working on this book, they gathered so much Macross pre-production that this book is as large as Robotech Art 1, and yet it only covers the first third of the saga. So now already you can see that it has 3 times as much content as before. Now, this had sold so well, it's already into its second printing. The second part of the series, which is Robotech the Masters, they're actually still working on this. And this is scheduled to come out next year. This is one of the hardest sections to work on. Like, Dave, you can actually attest to this, the Masters compared to Macross, is that there's so little published material compared to before. But what we were able to do was we were able to dive into the original materials provided by Tatsunoko Productions in Japan to have this book put together. So once it's out, it will be the most comprehensive book on the series, both in the United States or Japan. So this is something that we're really, really looking forward to. Udon is also actually here on the show floor, so I highly recommend that you meet the folks there. Those guys are awesome, and they've just poured all their energy into this.
Yep. And moving on, speaking of books, let's talk about Robotech comics over at Titan.
Yeah, so we've been really happy working with the folks over at Titan Comics. They are the largest publisher of comics in England and in the EU, I believe. And when we moved the license there, they really wanted to have a great launch for Robotech. And when it launched at #1. It was the #1 non-premiere comic series to launch, meaning it was not a Marvel or DC book. So outside of Marvel or DC, this was the biggest launch that month. And you can also get the books on Comixology if you missed the issues. They're already working on issue 24. This is how far along they are with the series. So within a short period of time, they've already matched the output of our previous publisher, Wildstorm, who also did a great job with their run. But this shows the pace picking up over at Titan. And let's move on here. Simon Furman, who had previously worked on Transformers, had written the story arc that we're currently in the middle of. The series is called Event Horizon, and it's also drawn by Henry Persetia. And this is an example of some of their artwork. This started with Free Comic Book Day. This was a huge deal for Robotech. Usually on Free Comic Book Day, comic retailers want to encourage more fans to get into comic books. And we'll have a lot of the highest profile properties at different publishers brought front and center for fans to get into comic books. And this is the first time Robotech's ever been presented to fans on Free Comic Book Day. And the 0th issue, which is where they started the Event Horizon event, that just blew out. It sold out during Free Comic Book Day. Well, blew out as a freebie would go, but it went extremely fast. It was amazing. So now Simon, this is the, I believe, yeah, that's the 0th issue. So right now we're up to issue 22 that was just released, and fans are realizing that we are just completely, Simon's gone completely experimental with the continuity. He's got the different generations of Robotech interacting with one another. And if we show this next example, we're even bringing in different realities and continuities of Robotech. So if you recognize that vessel, it's actually from Robotech 3000. Now, Somebody I'd like to bring up to join us is Brendan. Are you here?
Brendan?
Come on up.
Yeah. Brendan, come on up. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brendan Fletcher.
Thanks, guys.
So glad to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
We're so glad to have you.
What can I tell you? You know everything. What can we tell them?
Let's, well, tell us about yourself and Robotech.
Oh man, we're gonna start there. I know it sounds weird. I wouldn't be making comics today for a living if it wasn't for Robotech. I know that's a little weird. My best buddy, who I do comics with, we did Gotham Academy. We're doing a book for Image right now called Isola. We were obsessed with Robotech growing up, and instead of doing our schoolwork, we would doodle specifically Lancer's eyes. It was the toughest thing to draw. Some of you sketch Lancer, right? Yeah. I don't know what it was. At 10 years old, that shape was just tough to nail down, and we just drew Lancer over and over and over again. Rick Hunter, we got. It's all about the hair. So we're like 10, 11-year-old, 12-year-old kids with the worst French teacher in the world. I'm Canadian. We have to take French as kids. The worst French teacher in the world. We did not pay attention. We sat in the back of the room making up our own Robotech stories and trying to figure out how to draw Lancer. And it just became like a passion. Like storytelling for me started as a thing I really wanted to do by making up my own Robotech stories. And I think, moving on to become a professional storyteller, there's a lot of things that I know I have brought to my work that were like lessons learned from Robotech. And I had kind of promised myself wrapping up all my DC Comics books and moving on to my own IP that I'm making, that was the trajectory of my life for now. And nothing could bring me back to anyone else's IP. Robotech was the only thing that would do it. I was powerless. Chris over at, formerly of Titan Comics, approached me last year at New York Comic Con, sat down for a coffee, and he said, I think you know why I wanted to talk to you. And I was like, God damn it, you want to talk about Robotech, right? I know why you want to talk to me. And he's like, we want to talk about Robotech. I said, I'm not going to do it, Chris. I'm not going to do it. And he said, I think you need to do it. And he broke me down in like 30 seconds. And I was really excited. I'm really excited by what these guys have been doing with this book. Taking this thing that a lot of us grew up with, got really excited about, we've lived with, and sort of putting a twist on it that recontextualizes the whole thing and opens up the world of Robotech to limitless possibilities. As a storyteller, that was like catnip. I couldn't say no to it, so I'm super pumped about everything moving forward, and I would love to talk about it if I'm allowed to.
Well, I think what we can tease a little bit.
Okay.
Fans who have been following the series are already discovering that future Dana Sterling is coming into the Macross timeline. That's what's going on in Event Horizon right now.
Yeah.
So maybe you can just tell a little bit of what you would want to do with Dana without giving away the details, the spoilers.
Jeez, Tommy. Yeah, let's give some spoilers. Have you all been reading this Titans Comics thing? Yeah? It's really cool. If you haven't checked it out yet, give it a shot. They're collected into trades. They're super easy to get a hold of. Titan is actually on the show floor too. They've got them all there. I'm not speaking out of school. I guess it's a little bit spoilery to the current thing, but Dana has come back, and she had to come back because of stuff that happened in the original timeline. And she has come back to keep that from happening. I can't tell you how Simon's story wraps up, but I will say that as a result of coming back, she has possibly saved the world, the universe, every timeline, but she has doomed herself personally. And that's where I pick it up, is I want to tell the story of how Dana wrestles with her place in the Robotech universe and her place in her family and her place in society as it now is on this earth. Whoa.
How do we follow up that? Actually, in the Event Horizon series, fans are being introduced to you through the backup stories that you're collaborating with Sarah Stone on.
Yeah. Oh my God, Sarah! Did you guys read Sarah's Transformer comics? She basically made Windblade. She is incredible. And I have wanted to work with Sarah for years, and we kind of committed to work with each other, and then she took a gig doing the Netflix Castlevania show, and I was like, we're never gonna make comics together. And when the opportunity came up to do 2-page shorts in the back of this, I called her up and I said, look, I know you're busy. Can you spare me a weekend a month for a few months just to do a short Robotech story? She said, yeah, she's amazing. She's so great. She's known for drawing transforming robots, and ironically, our little story doesn't really feature transforming robots very much, but Robotech's about the people. It just happens to have cool transforming robots in it, right? Thank you.
Yes. And folks, we're talking about cool transforming robots. Let's talk about the Robotech live-action film set up over at Sony. Yeah. Folks, back in July of 2017, Sony announced that IT director Andy Muschietti had become attached to direct the live-action Robotech movie. Then 2 months later, in September 2017, Sony Pictures announced that Wonder Woman co-writer Jason Fuchs will script the live-action Robotech movie. We want to give you just a brief update on what the next steps are going to be. Andy is currently wrapping up the sequel to It. It's currently in post-production. While that's happening, Jason is writing a screenplay for the live-action Robotech movie. And Sony and Harmony Gold are working together with the production team to develop the live-action movie while the It sequel is in post-production. And I want to focus on this last point, namely the relationship between Sony Pictures and Harmony Gold and how it will unfold over the next 18 months. When the contract was signed at Harmony Gold for the live-action Robotech movie, the entire team celebrated. But after we celebrated, we had to move on to the next phase. And that next phase was answering all of the questions Sony had about the Robotech franchise. See, when the deal was announced back in the spring of 2015, Sony had all these questions and they wanted answers. So they invited us all over to Sony Pictures Studios and right into their executive boardroom to brief their senior management about the Robotech franchise. And what we did was we made sure each executive in attendance received a limited edition Robotech toy and a brochure outlining the history of the franchise. And when we began our presentation, we started talking about the history and performance of the franchise, and the Sony executive stopped us and said, this is all great, and you know what? We want more Robotech in the marketplace. So to that end, Sony Pictures granted Harmony Gold clearance to create and license new animated Robotech merchandise. But while this arrangement has been productive for both Sony and Harmony Gold, we are exploring ways to expand our partnership over the next 18 months. And over the next 18 months, you're going to see what this partnership is going to entail. So there's a lot going on with the Robotech franchise. And now, with our remaining 10 minutes, I want to open up to question and answer. Please line up here. We got plenty of prizes.
All right, and everyone who comes up after you answer the or ask a question, come up to the table here and grab a prize.
Yeah. All right, Dan, first question.
All right. My question for the action figure man, I forgot your name. You sound really enthusiastic about making action figures. You talked about Sentinels action figures, and that's never been done before. Like, what exactly are you envisioning? Like, what characters? Karen and Janice, or what? Or
we have a model of the Regent and Hellcat for the Sentinel series.
that's cool. But yeah, what about like characters that have never been in action figures? Like, I just mentioned Karen, I don't believe Janice too. No, she's never been done.
Yeah, actually, we do have a Janice from the Shadow Chronicles, a 3D model of her. If you can go to our Facebook page, you can see all the pictures of all the models we have. That's a good idea.
One of the great things about Carlos' relationship with Toynami is that any toys that Toynami generally passes over, because the marketplace for certain things such as Southern Cross is not necessarily big enough to support by Toynami, they've actually completely welcomed for you guys to contact Carlos, contact him through his social media, his Facebook page, and give him ideas of what toys that you want to see that's been underserved.
Yeah, just contact me, send me your feedback.
All right, guys, just so we only have 10 minutes, so no follow-up questions, only one question per person. Also, Kids Logic has donated these 2 busts here to give away. So the next, whoever's the next question asker can take one of those too.
Yeah.
Same question for Carlos, I guess a recommendation. If you could make a hover tank as a toy, that'd be great. Haven't had a hover tank toy, lots of Veritex, but no hover tank.
That's one of our dreams, a masterpiece hover tank. Oh, that was awesome.
Next question.
Hi, guys. I was here 2 years ago. I didn't get a chance to say it, but I just want to say thank you. As a younger fan, it's really cool to come here and just see that there's so much love, and you guys do such a good job with taking care of the fans and everything. My question is, unfortunately, there's not a lot of other people like me who are of the younger demographic, and I'm just wondering, is there any plans to sort of engage younger fans like myself and introduce them to Robotech, which is pretty cool?
It's great you brought this up because we talked about the original broadcast run here, but also we're expanding on streaming to help reach that younger audience. Because where do young people watch their shows? Streaming. Yeah, so going up, get a prize. Actually, you want a younger person? Here's a hockey jersey.
One left.
My question is about the weaponry. Is there any plans for weaponry that we can actually use ourselves and run around in their backyards? And
Carlos?
Yeah. Well, on my free time, I actually made a Galant, GU11, and a couple other toys. Life size, Wolf, Lar from Southern Growth. So, I don't know. Maybe it's in the future. That would be fun.
thank you.
Next question.
Yeah, on the live action Robotech, are you going to actually diverse the culture of the individual characters instead of just being North American region people, or is it going to be multicultural?
There has been no discussion of casting at this time.
However, I will point out that Robotech already has a very diverse cast.
Yeah. Next question.
Hi. I was also here 2 years ago with my brother, and we didn't get to ask our questions. My question is about video games, because I know there was a PlayStation 2 game, I forget the year, but is there any plans to create any more games for Robotech?
Sony, they're among the film studios. They're one of the ones that the only one I can think of that owns their own gaming platforms. And they're very keenly aware of Robotech's presence. They've allowed us to work on the classic games, such as Robotech the Macross Saga, and that's actually being brought back through Coleco. That's had a really successful crowdfunding, and so you can get that right now. And you're going to see some more from the classic library start to show up, and Sony's really invested a lot of interest in getting new games based on Robotech.
Here, we got 2 pullback min-mates for you and your brother. Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Yes.
Hi, asking for my daughter. You guys do a great job with adult toys, figures, and transforming planes, but she wants to know blocks, Legos. When are you guys going to do something like that?
That's a great idea.
Any chance you bring the Sentinel series back on streaming so we can see the full?
We are actually working on that with the folks who are involved in currently streaming Robotech.
So most of us here are a bit older, but I have a kid. I want to get her into this universe. Anything you're doing specific to sort of target younger audience, essentially where we were when we started watching Robotech back in the 80s?
Okay, so targeting younger viewers, like as in teens again. What's interesting about Robotech is, although a lot of younger kids watched it, you'll notice from the number that Kevin brought up is for a animated show, it's skewed older because the stories were very, very well fleshed out. And so I think Robotech's always going to be like that, in that we're always going to have a broad spectrum in terms of people who are interested in the stories.
Sir, I have a pullback meme for your daughter. Yeah, see, there you go. All right, next question.
Hi, my question is about the Macross, like franchise as a whole. What's going to happen with Macross in the past, present, and future? In terms of like Macross Delta and Macross Frontier and all the other Macross on Macross 7.
So, just to be clear to everyone, what we extended our license for regarding Macross is the classic original series, which Robotech the Macross Saga is based on. That's always been a part of Robotech. It doesn't include the other parts of Macross. That's just simply a question to be worked out later.
So we were talking about like how Robotech is more towards older people, but I think the live action movie is going to be really important in drawing younger fans, like such as myself. So is there any kind of elements you're hoping to see in the new live action movie that could potentially draw younger audiences?
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, a lot of our younger fans came from our Robotech video games. When the games were put out, we found a whole new generation of fans who got into Robotech because of that. So yes, I think Sony wants to cast a very wide net with the new Robotech movie.
All right, just real quick, because we're trying to fit a bunch of other people in. Question for Dan, miniatures. You're talking about the resin casting. Any chance of doing resin line for just the Battleoids or the Invid entirely?
So Carlos and I are going to try to put together what we can. The main thing that I tried to do with the game was if we develop some miniatures, you can use them with the game. We're really trying to develop some stuff that people can paint and have a good time with. So that's reaching out to that younger audience a little bit. The game is co-op, and with board games being so popular, it's very family friendly. And so that's another thing we're doing. So yeah, we kind of hope to at least do one mini per character that you can use with the game. And then I have access to a few more artists and sculptors that I can loan him. So we're going to see what we can do.
All right, I'll ask the last question that I know everyone wants to know. Who would play Min-Mei and Lisa Hayes in the live action?
But spoilers now, we can't talk about casting. Folks, for those of you in line, we got prizes for you, okay? We know we can't ask questions, so we got some prizes up here for you, okay? Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for supporting us, and we look forward to celebrating 35 years of Robotech next year. Thank you.
And last point.